Good evening, everybody. This is Miss Julie Starr again, and I'm glad that you could join me. I wanted to discuss a few videos tonight because I'm kind of lagging behind in discussing what I wanted to. What I'd like to discuss tonight is a friend of mine, one of the few Muslim friends I've had over the years, but I do have Muslim friends, and for people that don't know me that well, in fact, for 7 years I dated a Turkish man. And then I decided that our cultures were so different that it would never work anyway. And we would never marry because he would never convert to Orthodox Christianity. And of course, I would never convert to be a Muslim. And we kind of broke up and have never seen each other again. But the other friend I had for a very long time, at least a decade, her name was Aisha. Unfortunately, I never asked her last name because I never had the nerve in my late 20s. I was attending William Patterson College at the time. So it was before I graduated, like in 1996 probably. Me and Aisha was friends. I was living in West Milford Township on the corner of Oak Ridge Road and 23 South, where there are some little studio apartments owned by a man named George Strauss, and he has a little car lot there. That's the place where I was almost frozen to death when I was locked out of my car. If you've watched that video, please do. Anyway, Aisha, there used to be a little fancy ladies' boutique across the street that Mr. Michael Pinter owned. He was a Hungarian man I later rented an apartment from on Green Pond Road, which was about a block down the street. When I left the place I rented from Mr. Strauss because it was very small and other problems. Anyway, Aisha worked at the boutique where I met her selling clothes, and she had come from Guinea. She was a beautiful black lady, and she had married a black American man, and they lived up the street in Sussex on a beautiful lake community. And she used to come, even when she left America, things in her marriage did not go well, and she returned to Guinea. I used to pick her up once a year for her to have her passport stamped by the INS, Immigration and Naturalization Service in Newark, New Jersey, so she could continue applying for her citizenship and green card. I've kind of lost touch with her over the years, but she said I'm invited to her country anytime, and she called it her country because her family ruled Guinea for quite a long time. I'm not sure their names or anything. Like I said, I never really intruded. But I remember she was staying over at my house one night. I picked her up at JFK, and she said, "I never really told you this, Jill, but about my family ruling Guinea." And I said, I thought it was fascinating. I said, "Well, tell me something about it if you want to." And she said, "Jill, you know, my family hadn't resigned from ruling the country of Guinea." And I said, "It's terrible. Why was this?" And she said the country of France, which made it a little puppet state, and I guess it was a French colony at one time, when she said when France gave Guinea its freedom, it told my family how to run it. We had no democracy. France threatened my family's life with assassination attempts, that if they didn't do everything that France said in our country of Guinea, even though my father was president at the time, that he would be killed, and he had better resign. And so she said after a few years, her father and mother had a meeting, and the family discussed it, and they decided it would be better for them to resign altogether because France was not a democratic country. They were not, even after letting Guinea go as a colonized puppet state under France. When her father became elected president, France either said, "We do everything we say to do with the country of Guinea," even though her father was the president or elected official, "or we're going to kill you and your family." And she said that's one of the reasons she came to America, and she wanted me to know this. And after, we talked, and I had no reason to doubt what she said. She was very serious. I think one of her brothers was at the United Nations. She had shown me proof of what she was saying. And she had diplomatic status. I never really felt the same way again about France again, if you know what I mean. I kind of was sickened at the thought of France trying to preach all this democracy. Plus, I also wrote a paper on how France treats its French Muslims. Quote, it's okay for them to come to France and gain citizenship right away, but, quote, they must eat like Frenchmen, look like Frenchmen, and give up their culture altogether to be Frenchmen in order to immigrate to France. France is very racist and violates the Muslims' human rights very badly, as Germany does its Turkish rights. I know so because I had to write a paper on that, because the new school refused to let me write my paper. Adamantiopoulos, my Greek professor, refused to allow me, or she was scared to allow me to write my paper on whether NATO committed crimes against Yugoslavia, the former Yugoslavia, by the unilateral bombing of the former Yugoslavia in 1999, and she privately told me to write a paper on human rights violations of German Turks and French Muslims instead, and I did, and I got a pretty good grade on it. Anyway, Aisha said that the French government threatens democratically elected ruling family, which was hers in Guinea, Africa, into resignation in the mid-1990s, when I was living in an apartment owned by George Strauss and Mr. Pinter, who has a business on the corner of 23. And Mr. Pinter's an accountant, and there are many employers that saw me and Aisha together. I can attest that this is the truth, and I feel very badly that France has done this to her family that tried to rule democratically, and France just can't seem to practice what it preaches when it comes to democracy. And I do believe it's true that France did threaten Aisha's family into either resignation or assassination, and that's not quite what liberal democratic principles is about, is it, France? I await France's answer. Thank you.